My 365 Podcasts with me, Pete Cohen. Hi, it's Pete Cohen here. You join me for another My 365 podcast, and I'm absolutely delighted to have my guest with me today. The brilliant Steve Smith, former high jumper with loads of records, medals. We'll find out all about that, but also co-founder of a company called Raise the Bar that does some real innovative work in the area of learning and development. Steve, how are you, my friend?
I am brilliant, thanks, Pete. Good to speak to you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, you're someone who I came across a long time ago. I know I've told you this story before, but just for our listeners, I studied sports psychology, and there was a book in the library. I think it was called Strength Matters or something, something to do with all, you know, mentality, having a strong mind. And there was a picture of you having done a high jump with your fists both in the air going, ah, like that. And lo and behold, a few years later, I never knew I'd end up working with many of the athletes that I did, but I came across you and met you and learned a little bit more about you and what you've achieved. So just tell us a little bit as an athlete, what you achieved.
It's funny, just going on to back to your story for a sec, Pete. So I'm in the office on Friday, and a guy called Steve Bull was doing somewhere to Raise the Bar, who was the author of that book that you see. So we actually had a conversation about yourself and that book with Steve wrote. So that was good.
Small world.
But yeah, absolutely. Well, in terms of athletics, quite a while now. I was very fortunate that I competed in an era of athletics where there was some brilliant people in my event, and the standards were extremely high. And I guess that's one of the reasons I think now why I have a British record that stood for nearly 24 years. I have an indoor record which stood for nearly 24 years. World record stood since 1993. So the context of when I competed, it was a really good time to be an athlete because you were always really being pushed. Now, I was very fortunate. I competed in my first Olympic Games in 1992. And in 1992, I was young, but I really thought that I could get a medal there. But as it turned out, I didn't, and I finished in last place. But I had an interesting conversation with my coach because, you know, when you really know that you're in better shape than that. And I knew that, people see me as a kid out there competing, but I thought I can get a medal. And 3 weeks later, I competed in the World Junior Championships. And really, for me, it was about putting that disappointment behind me. And I went to those World Junior Championships in South Korea, in Seoul, and jumped 237, which was 1 centimeter higher than a winning jump in the Olympic Games that year.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, I went from being last in the games to being ranked number 1 in the world. And for me, there was a huge amount of justification in doing that. It was a great achievement for me to go, forget about the games, and now let's focus on the next 4 years.
Wow.
And then over the course of the next 4 years, I was lucky enough to take medals in all of the major championships. None of them gold, unfortunately, and then injury cut short my career. But you know, it was a great time to be an athlete. You know, people like Sally Gunnell, who you know very well, Roger Black, you know very well, you know, Linford Christie, all those type of guys. It was a nice time to be competing.
Wow. Well, you know, I didn't actually know that part of the story, which was that you went from being last, to being first. In fact, I was watching before with you competing against that Australian guy with the ridiculous hair, which people should Google and watch that on YouTube. The competition between the two of you, and you know there is this phenomenon that you probably know about, that when many athletes finish second in a major tournament, that it gives them so much fuel to their fire that they end up winning in the next major championship and succumbing anything that they thought they could possibly achieve. But with you, that's incredible, coming last in the Olympics to then a few weeks later becoming, jumping higher than anyone else had jumped. That's just...
It's interesting as well, Pete, because it's funny that you mentioned Tim, and Tim's a really good guy. You're right, his haircut was atrocious, but you know what, so was mine.
Yeah.
Tim, me and Tim, although he's based over in Australia and I'm based in the UK, we had some great battles, and he took the bronze medal in Barcelona 3 weeks earlier. So for me, that was a huge motivation as
Wow.
well, because he'd taken that medal. I thought that, well, I kind of deserve. So seeing him then live and stand on the rostrum and all that, so it was further fuel for my fire got into those championships. And just, it's funny because your motivation comes from lots of different places, doesn't it? And there was a piece there of I wanted to finish the season with showing to myself that I was better than I was in the Olympics. But also showing to other people as well that, never really seen how close I would have been in those games.
Yeah.
And finishing and just going, you know what, yeah, that's justification for where we actually were in the season.
I think it was maybe the next year. There's a clip of you on YouTube, and I think it was your final jump, and you're saying something to yourself, but you're kind of saying it out loud. I don't know if you remember what was it that you're actually saying to yourself?
I can't remember exactly what it would have been, people. I can give you a fairly good guess, because the interesting thing when you're in, a lot of, probably 99% of my life is about training for a 1% of time in performance. So all the technical aspects are fine. You drill them in every day. It's routine, it's habit, it's whatever you want you want to call it. So, but you can't get to an Olympic Games and be thinking, or a major championship and be thinking about technique. You can't be there going, right, I'm going to run 5 strides straight in a straight line, then I'm going to increase the tempo, and then I'm going to put my foot down there, then I'm going to drive up and I'm going to hold away. All that stuff needs to be just autopilot. So actually, when you're in a competitive arena, you're just thinking about things that motivate you. So it's simple triggers that make you feel like you're in the zone for performance. So for me, it'd be things like go up. It'd be, come on, you can do this, you deserve this. Just that kind of positive self-talk that was more of a trigger for me to go, okay, I'm now in the zone for performance.
So tell me, when you talk about those things, the motivators, what were the motivators for you?
I mean, back when I competed, everything for me revolved around the Olympic Games. So it was a very clear 4-year journey, and World Championships were important. Of course, they were really important. You had Commonwealth Games, European Championships, Grand Prix meets, and of course, a lot of my career was before things like lottery funding. So one of your first immediate motivators was actually going out there and earning a bit of money so that you could go on with a trainer and all that type of stuff. But that was just a stepping stone for, if I've got a 4-year plan as the Olympic Games, I've got a fairly clear picture of what that needs to look like in terms of what I need to jump, what my competitors are doing, what the environment is. Then it was about breaking that down and saying, okay, well, what has to happen over the next 4 years? And my coach was a great statistician, and so it was always very easy to point exactly where we are at any given stage in the journey. So yes, it was a 4-year plan, but the World Championships might be about experience of competing in front of 80,000 people on a different track. Zurich, okay, you may be getting paid some dollars to go and compete there, but it may also be about testing something out under pressure. Commonwealth Games may be around, going to and competing in a different against different competitors in a different environment. Because ultimately that 4-year journey then built up to when I step out onto the track in Atlanta. I've been there, I've seen it, I've done it before, and I feel as though I feel very home in that situation. So the motivation for me came about standing on that Olympic rostrum.
So you could see yourself winning. So before major tournaments in your head, because I remember talking to Sally Gunnell about this, and she said that who was the runner from the '68 Olympics, who 400-meter hurdle, what was his name, who won a gold medal? He told Sally, look, you need to visualize.
David Hemery.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Bob Beamon in a minute, but that visualization that Sally really went to town with that and would see herself winning over and over and over again. Was that something that you did?
I was, it's interesting, Pete, because in your life you meet a lot of people who can take you in one direction or the other, and I had people who I can look back to, whether they were PE teachers, whether it was my parents, whether that was people I competed against, and some people probably leave they don't spend a lot of time in your life, but you know what, they send you in a certain direction. And when I first started going to the track, I must have been 12, 13, something like that. And there was a coach called Ben Lang, And he used to run these, remember those superstar sessions where you do as many squat thrusts as you can in a minute? And and honestly, it was just a killer session at the end. And after the session, you fall onto the floor and you'd be lying there, and then he'd take you through this breathing exercises to get you relaxed, and then he'd get you to visualize your competition at the weekend. And I was only 12, but it was obviously something at that stage where, visualization became quite an important part of my athletics then, because it was something that was part of everyday training, even at that stage. So I'd spend a lot of time pre-competition using visualization as a technique for competing.
So did you ever have that deja vu of doing a jump and doing something you'd maybe no one had ever done before, and then in your head you thought, well, I've already done it?
If you watch YouTube, all right, there's a video footage of when I jumped 237 and I broke the world junior record. And I go like that and I put my hands over my face.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, you were lying down.
And I fall back.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that moment and what that was going to look like ever since I watched a guy 2 years earlier called Dragutin Topic, who jumped 237 in a World Junior Championship and did just that. So for me, that was complete autopilot, because I knew that 237 was going to be the goal. It was the World Junior record. It'd get me 1 centimetre higher than the World Championships. But that kind of falling back was all pre-rehearsed. It might have looked spontaneous. And I guess it was, but it wasn't, if you know what I mean, Pete.
Yeah, it just seems that athletes, often they have to do this if they want to be successful. But, we have people all over the world that will be listening to this who they don't use those tools and techniques. They don't often believe bigger, believe faster. They don't often tap into their potential. They don't often have something that they're aiming for, that no matter what, they're going to work towards. I'd like to uncover some of that with you around, your ideas. But I just want to go back. How did a young guy from Liverpool, because I know you also did long jump as well, but how did you find this event, and when did you first realize, whoa, I'm pretty damn good at this?
Pete, a lot of it's fun, when you need to be doing something that you enjoy at the end of the day, and that goes for in the workplace, or that goes for when you're a kid doing sport, and for me, I loved athletics, but I loved nothing more than arsing around on a high jump bed, or just playing around. That was the place to be on the track. So, and I love that piece about, just testing myself against a physical barrier of the bar. Nobody else mattered at the end of the day. It was about how high I could jump. So, although I wasn't not talented, but I wasn't the most talented kid when I was kind of 12, 13. But then all of a sudden when I was 14, and whether a lot of it came with growth or coincidence, I won what's called the English Schools Championships, which means that you can kind of go, oh shit, I'm the best kid of my age. And at the time, I didn't have a specialist coach. I still had a coach who was kind of doing, 800 cross country, all that type of stuff. So I was like, shit, I've won the English schools and I haven't really focused on it. I've just played around, really. So it was at that stage that I thought, okay, this is great, and continued to enjoy it. But I had a guy called Brendan Riley, who was a good mate of mine now, who was around that time as well.
I worked with Brendan.
Yeah,
he came to see, as a sports psychologist, he came to my house 3 or 4 times, I remember.
Well, Brendan was super talented.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did 5 English schools. I won 1 and finished second in the other 4.
To him?
To Brendan. So it was a great time. So Brendan was very, very talented as a kid. I think I was, not so much so until I got to the age of 18, 19.
Well, it sounds like client confidentiality here, obviously, because obviously some of the conversations I had with him, it was a long time ago. Mentality. So do you believe that your mental strength had a big part to play in your success?
Yeah, huge. I believe that on the day I was stronger than anybody else. That was just a belief system that I had. I always believed that it didn't matter what happened in training. It was all about what happens on the track. So I could try my best in training, but it was about what happened when I walked out into the major championship. And regardless of how things had gone, I always believed that I would produce my best performance in the major championship. Sometimes training didn't necessarily reflect that, but that was a belief that I had.
So where did that belief come from? Because belief is such a fascinating area. It's an area that I've done huge amounts of work on, and there's a whole theory of self-efficacy, which was this work developed by Albert Bandura, which was you could have two people, one is more talented than the other, but the one with the strongest belief often does better. And that led me to go more to what does that mean? And I think one of the things is when you believe because you can see it. You can see so clearly what it is that you're going to do that there's no amount of negativity that could dominate or take over. For you, you said the belief system. What was your belief system?
My belief system was built, I think, through my career. There was just I suppose, a bloody mindedness, which, you know what, Pete, can be positive and can be negative. So two very quick stories. European Championships 1994. I spent a lot of the summer out with, a lot of the winter out with a patellar tendonitis, which ironically is jumper's knee, and hadn't done a lot of technical work. But the visualization piece was absolutely key because it helped me with my belief system, persuading myself that actually I had done the technical sessions. So I said to my coach, Mike, I said, look, I'm just going to go into it with the mindset that those sessions are done. And I'm going to make sure that they're done because I'll do them up here. And I spent lots and lots of time visualizing what that jump was going to be. And I went to those European Championships and I took a silver medal, probably against the odds for me. It wasn't the best performance that I'd ever had. But, you know, I turned around a season that was really, my coach was saying, look, you know what, why don't we just call it a day? But the belief system was there that if I do the visualization, I can produce the performance.
Wow.
But then another example of that was in 1999. I've been plagued with Achilles injuries since 1996. And I had scraped into the World Championship final when I was actually in the best shape of my life, but my Achilles really played up on that particular piece. My belief system at the time told me that I could pretty much achieve anything, and that was stubbornness. And I went into I thought, well, I'll go into the World Championship final and I'll enter the competition at 2.37 meters, which would have been the winning height. So I didn't have any warm-up jumps, and I entered the competition at 2.37 meters, and I really believed I was going to go clear. I had my Achilles completely strapped up, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do this. Ultimately, if I look back, that's what finished my career. So there's this kind of realism piece between when do you overstep the mark, and it's bloody mindedness against actually, no, there's some realism in there, because you can achieve unbelievable things, which, you know what, in 1994, I probably had no right to take a medal. And I may have gone clear at 2.37 meters, but you know what, ultimately it finished my career. So
what was that like for you? Because I know a lot. I mean, I've spoken to people like Jonathan Edwards, who people who don't know who he is. He's a triple jumper again, Olympic gold medalist. He really struggled when he finished his career, because it's like you've spent all of your life, or pretty much all of your life, working towards something. What was that like for you when you finally stopped?
It was tough. I mean, I was 26 when I completely ruptured my Achilles tendon, and a surgeon down in Swindon actually said, "You're never going to jump again after after that. You can rupture your Achilles tendon, but I had a 1 in a million rupture. It was kind of very messed up." So all of a sudden you're 26 and you're kind of thinking, shit, well, 27, my career's over. I don't know what I'm going to do now. So it was tough, and there's a lot of denial that goes on. There's a lot of kind of depression, but you have to get to acceptance really, really quickly.
How did you do that? Play golf?
I wish I was. I wish I had time to do that, because I was pretty much skint as well. So
wow.
So the first thing is, right, okay, well, how am I? What do I do now? You know, how am I going to get myself back into a situation where, you know what, I can pay the mortgage, I can do this, I can do that. Now, again, there wasn't really the opportunities for me to automatically go into something through athletics. that was going to pay the bills and, pay the mortgage and stuff. So there was an acceptance piece of going, right, put athletics to one side for a period and focus with the rest of your life now. And then you forget about it. But, it takes a long time to adjust. And as much as you tell it up here that, you're adjusted, it takes years to get that adjustment from that shock. And blokes are very, very good, I think, at boxing things off. Yeah. Put it in the box, leave it there, that's it. Every now and again the box opens, yeah, because that's just life. But yeah, that's how you adjust. You put it in the box, you look forward, you accept it, and you go, okay, I'm not going to gain anything from looking back here.
So what's really interesting for me was, were you in the best shape kind of physically? Mentally you were in the best shape, right? You were thought, right, I'm ready to win gold. I'm going to be the best in the world. But your body just let you down. Yeah,
I was ranked number 1 in the world when my body let me down. It's arguable favourite for the Sydney Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was but as Akabusi would say, my body was cashing checks that my mind was cashing checks that my body just couldn't deliver on.
Yeah, well, it's like Derek Redmond, isn't it, when he was competing in the 400 meters and in the final in, what was that, Atlanta, and he was in the best shape of his life, and his Barcelona and his hamstring. So life isn't always the way it's meant to be, right? And I think sometimes people look at athletes and say, well, you're just lucky, it's all just a bed of roses. But what you went through in your life was testimony. I mean, it must have been a lot to do with your character that you were able to move forwards. I'd love to talk to you about what you're doing now, because I think that's incredible, the business that you have and taking learning and development to everyday people. But before we look at that, let's look at some of the key learnings that you have taken from your career that you think people should maybe apply to their own life in terms of being successful. What does being successful mean to you in life?
What does it mean to me? But a lot of it is around enjoyment, Pete. Money is important. Obviously, security when you have kids and stuff like that. Security is really important. But I'm not that money driven. I don't think. It's important for my career that I actually, in terms of the business, I have something which I can be proud of, and I look back on my career and I can be. Okay, my medals are in the drawer like everybody else, but like most of the people, I don't. You come to my house, you wouldn't really see much of the Olympic stuff, but you wouldn't see anything. But I'm really proud of that. So having something I can look back on is really important to me. The key elements, I think, if I look back now, it gives you a huge amount of self-awareness. I think sport, you're able to look and go, okay, why am I good? Why am I bad? There's a lot of analysing that goes on. So I think that's really important. I think one of the biggest things is resilience. Because I said before, I never truly believed it was over in a competition until the third attempt at that final jump when I landed on the bed and the bar fell to the ground. If I was standing there and I had one attempt left, regardless of what had gone on before, I always believed I could turn it around. So that resilience from doing that and knowing that I can deal with it as an outcome, I can just treat it as something that I can learn from and come back stronger, was really, really important as an athlete. Now, removing the emotion from situations when you're in a work-based scenario, or when you've got kids and you're married and all that type of stuff becomes much more difficult. I get that. But that resilience piece of just knowing that, if I look at, say, when I was in a restaurant business, there were weeks where we were losing 3-4K a week, but I just focus on the things that would make a difference, focus on customer service, focus on, making sure every customer that comes through the door has a better experience than the last one, focus on the quality of the dishes, it was all stuff that it wasn't going to turn it around fast, but if I could just focus on them, hopefully the next week we could lose $3,000, and the next week we'd lose $2,000, and then eventually we'd reach break even, and hopefully Valentine's Day would come early.
Yeah, right.
We can make some proper dough, So there was that proper piece. That was that piece about always having that resilience and faith that things will turn around, and so that's probably the big things about what you can control. So you can look back and go, I give it my best shot. I love that about competitive sport. In a team environment, it's not quite the same. But I could focus on what was in my sphere of influence, regardless of what everyone else was doing. You know, it wasn't about what my competitors were doing. It wasn't about, what everybody else in the team had done. It was about what I could do in that particular moment. There's a lot to be said about having complete control of your situations. And for me, I've never been employed. I like to think that I could be employed, but I quite like enjoying being in control of my life.
Well, everyone has a story to tell, and my 365 is about hearing other people's stories, so you can create. Someone's going to take something from what you've said. I know I most definitely have, which has already enriched my life, and I'm sure other people will as well, because people can change, right? I mean, you do believe that, right? You do believe that people can learn faith, they can learn resilience, they can. Do you believe that?
Absolutely, it's something that it is. Your life is shaped by lots of different things, and it's ultimately how you react to those things in your life as to whether you take a positive spin on it or whether it drags you down. It's, as I say, it's people, places, emotions that change what path you're going to take. I'm not perfect like you're not, Pete. I get pissed off. Yeah, I get things depress me, and sometimes I need to talk things through and have a rant about stuff.
Yeah,
that's life, because every day is like that. Hopefully I've learned enough in my career to know that the majority, if I can take a positive spin to stuff, then hopefully I'll be successful.
Well, I really encourage everyone to YouTube Steve Smith high jump. Look at because it's such a graceful thing. I mean, I think of all the athletic endeavors which people do, obviously people they seem to love the 100 meters, the 200 meters. They love the the long jump and the high jump. The high jump is, I don't know I suppose because it's who can jump the highest, but who can jump the highest in the world. And it's an incredible event to watch. Do you still enjoy watching it?
Yeah, I do every now and again. I'm not a big athletics fan, to be fair, but there's something. It's interesting because I'm going to use a word now which might be controversial in athletics. There's something very pure about it.
Yeah,
it's pure in terms of it's about who can run the fastest. It's about who can jump the furthest, who can throw the furthest, who can jump the highest.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about high jump. It was very, very simple. Those who say, "Oh, did you get into high jump?" Well, I say, "Well, because in my front garden, we'd have a jump rope and we jump over it, And if I'd try and jump over a fence, I'd jump over a river when I was a kid. All that great stuff that you do when you're growing up. It's a very pure thing for a child to do. To run, to jump, to play. That's why I love high jump, because it is about that purity of you against the bar and how high you can jump.
Well, that's one thing I personally have taken away from this conversation, and I would encourage everyone to really think about being your best, because in life you have an opportunity every day to be your best, to work out what it is that you want and work towards it. But what's really cool about you is that a lot of what you've learned, you've now applied it into your business, which the company is called Raise the Bar. And I know a lot about what you do. You really have taken learning and innovation to another level and really looking to make a significant difference in organizations to really help people take ownership of what they're doing. Just tell us a little bit, in your own words, what Raise the Bar is about.
Well, Raise the Bar is it's predominantly a development organisation. We have access to about 300 subject matter experts from lots of different areas of performance. But we deliver great leadership programmes, talent programmes. We deliver skills workshops. And it's all about really helping organisations, teams and individuals to raise their performance. Some people may be raising their performance from a 1 to a 2, others may be raising it from a 9 to a 10. But everybody can get that shift, that marginal gain in their own performance. It's about providing the catalyst to do that. We work with thinkers, doers, motivators and innovators from right across the globe, and everybody is a catalyst for change in a different way. Sport, high jump may be a catalyst for one person, but an author may be a catalyst for another, a coach may be a catalyst for another, a successful business person it could be the catalyst for a change in thinking for them. And it's all about really that symbolic moment that says, I can make a change, but then ultimately saying, okay, now what are the strategies, what are the things, what are the training that I need to do to make that change? It's not about sport, it's about raising the bar and being successful and learning from people who've been there, seen it, done it, kind of practitioners in their own world.
Well, look, this has been such a fascinating discussion. Everyone, go and check out Steve Smith High Jump. Check it out on YouTube and look at that determination in his eyes, and raising your own personal bar, which we should all do every day, I believe. I think life is so much more fulfilling when you're working towards something, you're achieving things. And go to the website. What's the website?
www.raisethebar.co.uk, or on Twitter, it's raisethebar_, or you can follow me on Steve Smith _HJ, as in high jump.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Absolutely pleasurable and very thought-provoking. Take care.
Pete, top man, great to speak to you again.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you want more free inspiration to optimize your life so you can achieve your goals in all the different areas of your life, then visit my365.me. That's mi365.me, and sign up to 365 days of free coaching with me, Pete Cohen. Thanks for listening, and have an awesome day.